How does emotional eating sabotage our health goals? Let's talk about this. Most of us have tried doing something about our emotional eating, but it gets away from us. And it doesn't have to be this hard. I've discovered we're trying to solve the wrong problem. I keep having Thunder for Good clients tell me that just went away. And I think I understand why this is. So stay to the end for me to explain how this works. Emotional eating, we know it seems to help us in the moment. It really seems to help us feel better. In many of our cases, like I lost track of every other way I had of dealing with uncomfortable emotions and stress. It all came down to eating and drinking anymore. But I knew this is causing more problems in the long run. So we know this, but we find it hard to stop. So I want you to know we can stop emotional eating very naturally and effortlessly. It doesn't have to be this hard. Here's the problem. When we're in love with non-nutritious foods and drinks, which in our culture we call them treats. We have them a lot. We get into this habit of eating and drinking these non-nutritious food-like substances, these treats, whenever we feel upset. And that habit really takes on a life of its own. It's an autocatalytic habit. It feeds itself, right? And then we fight with ourselves to do less, to restrict that behavior, inhibit that behavior. We want to do this behavior. We want to stop doing this behavior. We're fighting with ourselves, right? And that internal conflict is stressful and miserable, and it makes us want to do it more. When we focus on eating more instead, we change the whole dynamic. I'm not so much trying to stop myself from doing that thing. I'm trying to really do a lot more of this other thing, right? How does emotional eating sabotage our health goals? Let's break it down. Number one, we tend to choose non-nutritious, highly processed food-like substances and drinks when we're eating for emotional reasons. So we're choosing foods that aren't nutritious but feel pleasurable, that give us an extra boost of pleasure. It's really natural that we're doing that in these times. It's really understandable. But as far as our bodies are concerned, this is not good, right? So we choose these non-nutritious foods and drinks. And this also means we're crowding out the highly nutritious foods our bodies need. So research now suggests that the highly nutritious foods only represent, on average, 27% of what we're eating. So we're not getting enough nutrition. We may be overeating, but we're not getting enough nutrition. So our body, number three, sets about trying to solve the problem of not getting enough nutrition no matter how much we eat. It's got really good mechanisms for doing this. Scientists call it flipping on the fat switch. So it's the same thing we see with bears getting ready to hibernate. We see with animals that are living in low nutrition environments. A whole package of things changes. And we're seeing this happen in the human population in the United States and really globally at this point because of the way we're eating. What it feels like to us is, man, I'm hungry. Like I know I just ate 2 hours ago, but I'm hungry again. So it really changes our hunger hormones. We also feel like, just edgy, anxious, right? So our body drives up cortisol, making us sleepless. So we have more time to look for food. So we're feeling more hungry, we're feeling more anxious. Our body also does a couple of other things. It slows down our metabolism. So even when we're sleeping, we're burning less calories. And it drives extra fat storage. So the fat isn't exactly coming from eating too much, from too many calories. That's a misunderstanding of what's happening. The excess fat storage is coming from the fact that our body is perceiving that we're not getting enough nutrients and we're in a low nutrition environment. It needs to store fat for the future. So we're causing all these metabolic issues in our body by doing this emotional eating. And then emotional eating also adds to our emotional stress, right? We get these excess highs and we get these excess lows. This is happening because of what it's doing to our blood sugar, because of what it's doing to our gut and our mood, because of what it's doing in our brain and how our body has to solve all these problems. Don't you hate it? When your way of solving a problem actually makes the problem worse in the long run, but you don't know how to stop because it seems to help in the short run. I felt really foolish for not being able to stop this. I used to have other coping mechanisms for managing my emotions, but I got down to this one of eating or drinking something super exciting and special and non-nutritious to help myself feel better. So it's also driving an unhealthy relationship with ourselves, with our sense of being able to be in charge of our lives. It's driving unhealthy relationship with our body. Like, just deal with it, body. I need this right now, right? Maybe hurting you, but I really want this. And it drives an unhealthy relationship with food and drink, right? It leaves us feeling kind of ashamed of ourselves. Like, I don't know who's in charge of what I'm eating, but it doesn't really quite seem to be me. Like, I made a decision this morning and I'm not following that decision tonight. So it seems obvious we may want to stop emotional eating. It is harming our health efforts. It's harming our sense of self and our relationship with our body. But trying to stop emotional eating or reduce or inhibit ourselves from doing this thing we want to do feels really hard. Sometimes it feels impossible. So people encourage us to go to therapy and work on how to better handle your emotions so you don't have to eat your way through them. And that can be nice. It can be a nice thing. It can be a helpful thing. I know for me, starting to focus on, okay, how about just feeling what you're feeling? How about just leaning into it and figuring out what it's telling you, right? It was a helpful thing. And it felt like better self-love than eating or drinking something. But I want you to know there's an even simpler, more direct solution to emotional eating, and that is learning what truly healthy eating is. And we mostly think we know what it is, and we're just wrong. We're just in a terrible food environment, and we've been fed a lot of misinformation, and we have a lot of misunderstandings about what this means. When we actually learn what truly healthy eating is, and we get really committed to that and excited about that, and we start eating an abundance of highly nutritious foods, that starts to just make the emotional eating go away. There's no room for it. It doesn't fit in our habits anymore. When we do truly healthy eating, we get really committed to it. One natural result is we just stop the emotional eating. It just doesn't fit anymore. Isn't that amazing? So my client Stacia this week, she's just finishing up the Slender for Good Foundations program. She had started cutting back on desserts before she started the Slender for Good program. And she was starting to lose a little bit of weight, but it was really a struggle. Once she learned slender weight eating, it just made so much sense to her. Of course, this is how we should be eating. I'm so happy to know, right? So she committed to it and she's eating this way every day. And she's lost 18 pounds so far and got back to a size 6. And it feels awesome to her. But one of the best outcomes is that her addiction to sugar went away. It just went away. And emotional eating became a non-issue. Like, she didn't have to fight it. It just stopped. So trying to battle with ourselves over emotional eating is making things harder than they have to be. This can be simple. We learn how truly healthy eating works. We eat in abundance of highly nutritious foods. The cravings for non-nutritious foods just stop pretty fast. And we no longer get hungry between meals because that was a problem with the way we used to eat. It doesn't happen anymore. We experience uncomfortable emotions, and it just doesn't exactly occur to us to do emotional eating because it's not our mealtime or we don't eat those foods, right? It just isn't a problem that we have to fight. The way we eat makes sense. We enjoy it. It's pleasurable. It quite quickly makes our body really happy. And we enjoy our meals, but we don't get this excess excitement. We don't get this stress over eating anymore. We're not fighting emotional eating. It just doesn't fit anymore. Can you imagine that? It's so good. All right. So bottom line, we don't have to struggle with emotional eating. Focus more on eating a lot more of the highly nutritious foods. Don't let yourself be fooled by what the food industry is telling you is highly nutritious. Make sure it's just unequivocally, this is fruits or vegetables. This is proteins. This is like beans or meat or fish, proteins or fat or whole grains, nothing processed. I would just love for you to be able to discover this. It's just quite different from what you thought. Now, if you would like to get a better idea of how truly healthy eating is different from what you thought, grab the Roadmap to Sustainable Weight Loss. I'm going to put the link below. I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments with emotional eating. Do you realize now, does this give you an insight about fighting emotional eating is not going to be the solution? Also, if you're feeling like I've heard enough of your videos, Ginny, I'm ready to take real substantial action. I want to see if slender weight eating could be the right approach for me. Book a call with me. I'll put that link below. It's drginny.as.me/slender. I hope to see you in there.